Hi, I'm Mrs. Murdock, and this is a training for graphing skills. So when you have a data set like this one, and you're supposed to create a graph using this data set, usually you get a little description of what actually happened to create the data set, and then you have a table of data. So it says, a scientist measured the temperature of water at different depths of Lake Onondaga in upstate New York on a spring day in April. The data is shown below. Create a well-titled and labeled graph on the grid provided. All right, so the scientist was on the lake and she had some string and she lowered a thermometer into the water and measured the temperature as it got deeper and deeper and deeper. That's what she did, okay? So what would be my IV? What do you think? I think it would be depth, right? Because that's what she was manipulating. The IV is generally going to be the left side of the table, usually. In this case, it was the depth at which she measured the temperatures. And then the temperature was dependent, right? Dependent on how deep the thermometer was in the water. Okay. So whenever you do a title, and many of you handed in graphs with no titles at all, titles in this class are going to be really simple. It's always going to be the same. You're going to say the effect of whatever the IV is on whatever the DV is, and you just fill in those blanks. So in this case, it would be the effect of the water depth of Lake Onondaga on the water temperature. There. That went off the thing. Okay. All right. So the next thing after you've titled it, you need to put the right labels on the axes. There were also many people who weren't sure about that, so I want to make sure we go over that. The IV always goes on the x-axis. So down here, you would write depth of water. And then make sure you include the unit meters down there. And you notice that I wrote it down low, so I have enough room to write my scale numbers here. Some of you were doing that too. You were writing your labels incorrectly, but then it interfered with the numbers you were trying to put there. So make sure you plan ahead and leave some room so you can put your numbers of the depths there. Over here is where you put the DV. So temperature of water, degrees Celsius goes there. Okay. And again, I'm leaving lots of room so that I can put my scale there. Now, figuring out the scale seems to have been the most difficult part of this for all of you. In both classes had a really, really tough time with this. So let's make sure we understand what we're doing. Now, with this particular scale, look how nice and even the depth in meters was. She put it at 0, 2 meters, 4 meters, 6 meters, 8 meters, and 10 meters. It's already evenly spaced for you, so that makes it kind of easy. So down here, remember, we always start with 0. And we're going to mark off that scale so that it uses as much of this line down here on the grid as possible. So I'm just going to go by this. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. That's a pretty easy scale to make because it's already evenly spaced, and all you have to do is just write it out. Every 2 boxes is the same distance. There's 2 between this interval, 0 and 2. There's 2 between the next interval, 2 and 4. 4 and 6 is evenly spaced, okay? So there's the x-axis done. All right. All right, so now let's do the y-axis. The y-axis isn't as easy because look, we've got 17, 16, 15, 11, that's not evenly spaced, right? So now you're going to have to pick a scale that accommodates these numbers. a scale that accommodates these numbers. You don't just go, oh, here's 9, 10, 11, 15, 16. You can't do that because then you'd have the wrong number of numbers between each interval. You have to create a scale that's evenly spaced, right? And you know that your biggest number is going to be somewhere around 17, so maybe you'll go to 20 on this. So let me mark it out and let's see what works. If I start at 0, you always want to start at 0. If I go up by ones, that's not going to work because that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it goes to 17, so I can't go up by ones. What if I go up by twos? Would that work? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. That would work. Why don't we do that? Okay. So if I go up by 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16, and 18 is at the top. That accommodates all the way to my 17 and down to my 9. Okay. Now plotting the actual numbers. Since you have two numerical kind of continuous data sets here, this would make a good line graph because you have depth in water that's connected to temperature. So line graph works fine. That means you're going to use this number as your x value and this number as your y value to coordinate and place each point one at a time. So your first one is 0. I'm going to start 0, and I'm going to go up to 17, which is going to be right there. See that? Between the 16 and the 18. Agreed? Okay. The next number is 2, right? So 2 and 16 are my x and y values for my next number. Here's my 2. Where's my 16? Right there. There's my next value, right? Next one, 4 and 15. Okay, so here's my 4, depth of 4 meters, and I'm going up to 15 this time. That's going to be right between the 16 and the 14. See, right there, that's 15. Keep going with 6 and 11. 6 goes up to 11, which is right about there between the 10 and 12. 8 and 10. 8 goes up to 10. There's my 10. See, right there, there's my 10. And then 9, my last number down on my x-axis, goes up to 9 right there. At 10 meters, the degrees Celsius was 9 degrees. Now, do I leave it like this? No, there's one last thing you have to do. It is a line graph. You pick up your ruler. I can't do that because I'm on a tablet here. It won't work. But you need to take a ruler and connect your dots with love and care. Okay? So you're going to connect your dots. Don't just leave them hanging in space if it's a line graph. There, 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 and there. And there. And now you have a well-titled, well-labeled, beautifully plotted graph as it should be. Okay? All right. So that's how you do a line graph. Now this next one here is actually a different type of graph, and I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but what do you think? Would this be, look at the data, would this be a line graph or a bar graph? Bar graph. Why is that? Yeah, because now you have these non-numerical things on your IV. These are different species of trees. So you're really doing a comparison here. You're not really looking for a trend in this case, right? So definitely this has to be a bar graph. So in this case, I just want to make sure that when you are doing a bar graph, again, in terms of titling, it's the same. Oops, what just happened? Draw. Okay, the drawing just cut out on me. All right, well, when you're doing a bar graph, just make sure that the widths of the bars are the same, and that they are equally spaced. You're still going to do the same type of scaling on the y-axis, and on the x-axis, you're going to write the species of the trees under each bar that you're going to do. Okay. All right, and I don't know why it is refusing to do writing anymore, but I think that is all I needed to tell you. So those are instructions for doing graphing, and I hope that was helpful.